In this video, we'll be reviewing the predictions of events that we expected to see and experience using practical astrology in comparison to what actually happened in the month of February. Let's talk about it. So these are predictions from the previous Saturn square Uranus video that I put out earlier this month. Historically, what we've seen when Saturn and Uranus square or oppose each other, it shows us that what we might likely see is a crisis in the current rulership and the financial structure, which is represented by Saturn, which forcibly needs to be innovated and can even come about by some sort of revolution represented by the energy of Uranus. So previous Saturn-Uranus squares or oppositions, they include the 1930s Great Depression, the 1975 inflation crisis in America, where I think you needed to have like an even or odd numbered license plate to even be able to get gas in your car on a certain day. The crazy fear of Y2K and the world ending, which also brought the 2000 dot-com bubble bust. Then what do we have? We had the 2008 recession and the real estate market crash. All of these show us a very clear historical precedent for some kind of financial crisis when when Saturn and Uranus are in some sort of square or opposition with each other. Speaking of Jupiter, this time Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is involved in this mess, which is like adding gas to the fire. I mean, Jupiter is literally like the gaseous planet. It's like 2/3 gas, so it's a pretty clear interpretation that this could actually be explosive. We might literally hear of some sort of explosion. So what happened? A few days ago, after the Saturn-Uranus square aspect on the 17th, and exactly as Mercury ended its retrograde on the 20th here in the northern hemisphere, exactly as Mercury ended its retrograde and started to move forward, the Monday after, the financial markets all just took a dump this week. They are down, and they're down a little more than usual, which is scaring the living daylights out of a lot of investors right now, especially a lot of the new ones that have gotten into this market. Now they are terrified. Will the markets dump lower, or will they recover? That's the question, right? And now I'm not here to give anyone financial advice because, well, the SEC says I shouldn't, so I'm not. How it usually goes, though, is when everyone's panicking, it's usually a good time to go shopping for discounts on valuable assets rather than to be buying when everyone's already pumping it to the sky at that point. Shouldn't really go chasing green candles like they say you shouldn't go chasing waterfalls. Kind of the same thing there with investing. Also, this previous gas crisis I mentioned in this video, that event in history where some people could get gas and some couldn't, or you had to get it on a certain day, it's oddly similar to the vaccine situation that we have going on right now in the world, right? Some people are upset that in the states here in the US, some people are having better access to the vaccine than other states, or that in some cases the rich get access to the vaccine before the poor, which is similar to how a lot of people felt when it came to getting gas in the 70s, something that people felt that they all needed to have to exist as a utility or a necessity in life. It seemed like it was going to the privileged rather than to others. By the way, this analysis has zero to do with my opinion on vaccines. It's simply just a comparative assessment of how these energies are playing themselves out then and throughout history. Let's keep on going. And then there was this prediction about some financial news coming sometime between February 8th and February 10th. Today is the 29th of this recording, and Mercury is going to be both retrograde and invisible in about a day or so. So I think the story will probably lose some steam for about a week until Mercury is what's called Cazimi on the 8th of February, which means it's getting boosted. It's getting support from the sun.
Tesla, in a new filing, says that they've updated their investment policy to provide them with more flexibility to, are you ready for this, be able to buy Bitcoin.
Good evening. Tonight, Elon Musk makes one of his riskiest bets ever.
Holy crap, it happened. Tesla just invested $1.5 billion into Bitcoin.
Popular cryptocurrency Bitcoin has jumped more than 10% to a record high. This after Tesla said it had invested
$9,000 in one day? Damn, Elon. Talks of stimulus are likely, which, surprise, surprise, might be frustrating to people. I mean, that's kind of been going on all last year. Or maybe it could be positive now. It's an Aquarius, but we'll see. What's more likely, unfortunately, is disagreement between the powers that be and the people due to regulations and restrictions coming through some sort of economic or financial means, right? We talked about the history of what the squares or the oppositions have played out. The funny thing is, if you remember, every stock that those average Joe investors on Reddit decided that they wanted to, as a group, get together and buy, Wall Street had Robinhood and all the exchanges that they had in their pocket run around basically and block these investors from buying those assets, which actually did send a lot of people into crypto to buy none other than Dogecoin, for crying out loud. By the way, people have been asking, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, but as I started doing it, I really got into it. So just so you know, a video on Dogecoin is coming soon. But anyway, of course, some people in government's solution to what's happening with Wall Street and Reddit is, you guessed it, more regulation via taxes, of all things. This hasn't passed yet, by the way, but when both political parties are in favor of something that will make the government more money, you get the idea where that's likely to land, With the Uranus-Saturn square, we know someone's going to end up losing out of this whole thing, so we'll see how it pans out. But I'm going to keep it real with you guys. For those of you who don't know, here's the thing. The rich usually have accountants that help them find legal ways to not pay taxes. So, of course, if this regulation passes, like many other regulations in the past when it comes to these big financial moments in history, these will probably just end up hurting your everyday average Joe, low to mid-income 99%er type of person the most. Surprise, surprise. And that's not an astrological opinion about taxes. This is just keeping it real about what actually has happened and tends to happen. Taxes, interestingly enough, by the way, do fall under the 8th house of secrets. Taxes being this weird hidden element of loss on your part that benefits another in some way you can't really see or understand. Unless, of course, you have a strong 8th house or strong Scorpio or Pluto placements as it relates to the financial parts of your chart. Or, obviously, if you're a tax accountant, then you know all the secrets. One of my best friends is actually a very successful tax accountant, and he'll tell you even your typical tax accountant is confused about taxes. 8th house topics can be like that. I talk more about the 8th house and how it affects and relates to investing, as well as Reddit and GameStop, that whole situation here, in a video on my channel that you can check out if you haven't seen it. Let's keep on going. So remember, Saturn is that being which is old. It represents that which is traditional, authoritative, and limiting, versus Uranus, which is new, different, revolutionary, and wants to break free.
As you can clearly see, this is a tie as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many New Zealanders and Aotearoa is concerned. This is a tie. This is a tie to my people. This is a tie to the plight. This is a tie to the very reasons why we stand in this place to fight for our rights. So it's very difficult when I'm constantly made to feel like somebody I'm not. That is not part of my culture, ties, and it's forcing the indigenous peoples into wearing what I described as a colonial.
The revolutionary and the individual is just sick and tired of limitation. This one is self-explained in the video, so we'll keep on going. What about Jupiter and Saturn becoming visible? Let's talk about that now. With Jupiter, everything Jupiter rules now will come to light for the entirety of its next phase of visibility. What is that phase? Jupiter is going to be visible from the 22nd of February and for the rest of 2021. All of a sudden, you'll start to hear from people who have a lot of Jupiter energy in their charts showing up in your life and into the public sphere. Jupiter rules things like morality, law, honesty, finances, and good deeds, which is no coincidence that some of the court cases I talked about in earlier videos right? With like Robinhood and what they did with the Reddit traders and GameStop, or that cryptocurrency XRP having their day in court with the SEC. It's no coincidence that these are literally kicking off like the day after Jupiter becomes visible in the sky again. Clearly, it's actually more of a synchronicity with the cycles of nature that govern the universe that you and I happen to exist in. This one too is pretty self-explanatory. One I forgot to mention, which most people have no idea about, and that's, but it's actually a huge big deal as far as cryptocurrencies are related, is that a huge crypto exchange company, an exchange being, you give them dollars or one currency and you get another. That's what an exchange does. A cryptocurrency exchange company called Bitfinex and the New York Attorney General have settled their court case with the US dollar stablecoin cryptocurrency called Tether. Some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. I'm not even going to explain it. But all you need to know is that in this case, one of the big dark clouds that was hanging around cryptocurrency that could really threaten the whole industry from a regulatory standpoint was this case, and it's gone. So the moral of the story here is that in this aspect of Saturn representing law and regulation, squaring off versus this crypto exchange company, which is this new revolutionary technology, the new tech won and now becomes strengthened as a result of this square. That's what happens when Saturn and Uranus square off. Whichever side wins ends up being stronger as a result, which for crypto in this case is pretty nice. And here is Biden signing off on the bombing of the militia groups just outside of Syria. I'm not going to discuss the politics here, just the energy at a high level as an example of how Saturn was squaring off with Uranus and how that can bring literal explosions as well as visible examples of how the authority Saturn will use its power to limit the energy of revolution and change. It's a pretty clear interpretation that this could actually be explosive. So let's wrap this up. February has been tough for two reasons. One is, for this purifying, burning aspect of the sun, this is in part why the sun is interpreted to be one of the harsh energies in astrology, whereas on the other hand, you have other planets like Jupiter, Venus, or the moon that are considered to be gentle in the effects that they produce. So let's think about this. You have the great purifier, that which burns things up, and then you have six planetary bodies and everything that they represent all piled up and hiding behind the sun for the majority of February. So why is everybody complaining about burnout or frustration? Now you know why. And this should have caused you to get some rest. And also should have shined a light. The light of the sun also exposes things. Without it, we couldn't see a thing on the things that you need to change in your life, and not one, but many different aspects of your life. Each one of these aspects specifically related to what these six planets rule in your chart, and the houses that they're in, and the aspects to them, and the constellations they're in, and so on and so on and so on. You can get a reading from me for all those details if you want. The other reason is that the Saturn-Uranus energy that I've kept talking about this month, right? So just to recap on that, basically, people want change, and lots of change. And they want it now, while at the same time being very, very tired. It could be physical, spiritual, or emotional change, or they could be tired physically, spiritually, or it could be emotional exhaustion. But overall, there is definitely a feeling of, I've had enough of this now, in some aspect in everyone's lives. Hopefully by now, whether on your own or maybe with the help of this info from this channel, you've been able to piece together what these things are that you want to change and have been able to start to put together a plan and set some seeds or plant some seeds, set some intentions on how you want to move forward with these things, how you want to break free and create a little revolution or some change or do something new with your life in these areas of life that are frustrating you. Hopefully you found what those things are, because things will start to pick up in March as Mars moves into the zodiac sign of Gemini and becomes very active on the intellectual level. And the sun also later in March makes its entrance into the first zodiac sign of Aries, which we'll definitely talk about here on this channel in future videos. If you're subscribed, then you'll most definitely be kept in the loop. And if you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Be well, talk soon, one love, peace.